Guess who's on a basketball court and can't hoop for his life? Right over here. Alright, what's good everybody? Welcome to the Omnist podcast. This is episode 63, I believe. And please, let me not be wrong this time because I know I was wrong in the last episode. I believe this is episode 63, finally. Because I did say 63 in the last one. Alright, officially episode 63. And this is a very good number to talk on the subject because 6 and 3, you times 6 times 3, you get 18. 8 plus 1 is 9, and 6 plus 3 is 9 as well. You turn the 9 upside down, you get 6. And I say all of this because the numbers 3, 6, and 9 all have a relation, and we're also going to be talking about spirituality and sexuality in this podcast. So make sure that you like the video. If you are on YouTube, and if you are on Spotify, make sure that you answer the poll at the very end of the podcast episode, and I will remind you at the very end of this podcast episode as well. Apologies if you hear trucks or motorcycles or whatever the case is crossing the road. I am outside, I am at the park, and I wanted to change up the platform here a little bit as well. I'm on a basketball court. Again, cannot ball for my life. Wonderful. All right. But it feels great outside. Blue skies, a little clouds here and there. It's like in the 60s, mid 60s, going into 70s. I don't know what's going on with the weather right now because it's supposed to be really cold. Even though I'm down south right now, it's supposed to be really cold, like in the 50s, 40s and 50s. Even with me being in Georgia. So I don't know what the commotion is about that. Global warming, I guess. I don't know. Like one moment it get really cold and then the other moment it get really hot. I don't know what's going on with the weather right now. But anyways, shout out to everybody who be listening to my content and who be hitting me up in my DMs and stuff. And I appreciate everybody who hits me up and asks me questions, or appreciate the people who follow me on Patreon, especially people who subscribe to my Patreon, and appreciate the content and stuff that I put up on there. I've been slacking a little bit. I know. Been slacking a little bit with the content for the memberships on YouTube. I will be posting a couple of videos this weekend, one about Baphomet and the other one concerning the basis of the Pantheon, which I'm going to be talking about in this video just a little bit. But shout out to everybody who be supporting me in my content and all that other type of good stuff. It's a nice little breeze outside too. But I wanted to, and you know what? Where's my phone? I have some pointers that I would like to discuss. Make sure y'all like the video, like I said before. And you know what? Because the sun, how because it's getting dark. I don't know if I have to move my camera somewhere. I knew it probably wasn't a good idea to do this scene in front of trees. Because, of course, because the earth is rotating, because, the earth isn't flat. Like how some Negroes believe. I don't know if I have to find like a certain space for the time being, or maybe I just need to back up to where I can get some official sun. I wanted to be like in the center of the basketball court. Let's see what we can do here. Almost like we're vlogging. I wanted to be in the center, but I guess we can't be in the center because I do want y'all to see me good. I could turn the brightness up a little bit as well. It's that tree. The tree is still there. So we can do over here. I know we're not going to be in the center, but at least y'all can be able to see me officially. Okay. That was a really good setting though. All right, y'all can see me. So we have some pointers that I have, and I always got to keep pointers so that I can keep being on track, even though I tend to ramble a lot. All right, but I don't want to be out here for too long. I want to be out here for just a good maybe 20 to 30 minutes to discuss the matters at hand. The reason why I want to talk about spirituality, particularly in this video, and I know I talked about spirituality in the last video, is because, you know, for the past couple of weeks, I've been really getting more in tune with telling people to invoke certain entities and channeling certain entities so that they can become the best versions of themselves. And, you know, aside from like creating entities, which can be a little hard for some people because some people have derived, or they have what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have a good imagination. We'll just put it that way. A lot of people don't use their imagination very well. And it's just like creating a comic book, creating your own DC universe or your own Marvel universe, is that you're creating entities. It's like if you have a basketball game or wrestling game and you create a roster of players. That is what you're doing with creating entities, is that you're giving them personalities, you're giving them a face, and you give them missions to do what you want them to do for you. Okay, and it's based upon how much power you put and invest in these entities that they are able to work on your behalf. And that might sound a little crazy for some people because they can't extend or surpass that understanding, but it is what it is. That's what people do. So in this world, they channel your energy. Okay, when you watch television and when you go on certain channels and certain broadcasts, they are casting spells on you. They are channeling your energy, and they can motivate you and inspire you, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Muhammad, whether it's sports, whether it's philosophy, mystery, drama, whatever the case is. Each channel is it has a certain investment of energy that needs to be instilled within their audience in order for them to portray what they want to portray visually in the television. Okay, so in the world of media or media, there is an illusion, and this illusion is whatever you want it to be. Okay, and you can either believe in the matrix or believe in the illusion, or go against the grain and what they call, you know, the red pill, and really see things for what they are with a different eye. So concerning spirituality, getting back on topic, I want to discuss certain matters concerning Christianity. And for people who have listened to my podcast episode of how I went from being a Christian to being what I am now, that is, matter of fact, I can look it up right now while I'm talking about that. But that was a really great podcast episode where I was basically talking about my journey from being raised up in the church. I'll talk about how both sides of my family were highly religious and all the other good stuff, and how I truly came to who I am today, being what we know as to being the Omnist Rome. So it's episode 30. Episode 30 is called From Christianity to Omnism. And for people who don't know what Omnism is what I identify with in terms of my spiritual perspective on life. It's not a religion. It's more so a perspective or an ideology or philosophy in terms of how you look at the world. And I like to use the example of when you have different curriculums at school, you have to learn each curriculum in order to pass and go to the next grade. And so I look at different spiritual systems and different religious systems and different aspects of philosophy and different aspects of people's mottos and how they like to live and stuff like that. I learn from each of these particular systems or these dynamics of beliefs, and I apply those things to my life, or I pick which of those things benefit me the best And that is what we call omnism. It's just like going to a buffet and you picking out certain foods and putting it on the plate. That is omnism for me, okay? So I utilize the resources of all different scopes, all different variations of beliefs and spiritual systems, and I apply that to my life. So that is what we call omnism, okay? But concerning the basis of omnism, I want to discuss the matters of Christianity, right? And so Christianity for me is something that I know vividly, very well, because I was raised up in the church. Both parents were in the church. My dad led the choir. My mom was an accountant. Both of my grandparents on my mother's side were the leader of the deacon and deaconesses, all that type of stuff, right? Very good friends with the pastor. I used to come in when I was little certain times and play on the drums while they would set up communion. I was really invested in the church, right? I'm really deep into the church. So much so that when I was 12 or 13 years old, I started my own little ministry online where I would get thousands of views of people watching my posts, listening to my audios. And, you know, I was so invested into the religion to such a point to where the pastor told me that I was basically destined, or it was prophesied that I would be a preacher. Okay, I've talked about this in many of my videos where I say, like, he may have not foreseen the whole vision, right? But it was there, right? It was there in terms of me being a vessel to teach, being a vessel to apply insight for people, to give insight to people who may not know certain aspects of spirituality, who may not know certain things concerning what it means to walk this spiritual journey, your hero's journey and stuff like that. And I'm able to break down certain things that certain people may not have the gift to do, right? And that's just who I am. That is my gift. I have many different gifts, like concerning editing and putting stuff together and wording certain things in order to get my message out. For people who really been following me for the long run, back in 2017, 2018, I was very immature and more direct concerning what I wanted to bring out and concerning certain conversations and stuff like that. Now that I'm more mature, I'm 23, going on 24, I'm able to, and even at 21, you know, I talked about this, that I'm able to visually and verbally display and describe and, you know, break down certain aspects of spirituality or my way of believing or my way of seeing things that doesn't have to directly attack somebody, or doesn't have to directly attack a certain set of people or a certain way of living, whatever the case is. You're able to understand where I'm coming from just by how I speak. And regardless of how I change up my delivery, regardless of whether I grow and mature, there's always going to be a whole set of people that's going to get mad at something that I have to say. It is what it is. Can y'all see me? I can't even see myself. Okay, so the trees, the shadows are getting bigger. Okay, because I noticed, like, right here, like, I can't even see myself. Okay, wonderful. All right, we're just gonna be right here. Hopefully it's gonna be good and we don't have to deal with the shadows and all that type of stuff. I think I found a pretty good spot. All right, but what was I talking about? What was I getting to? We're just gonna get back to the Christianity thing, right? So I evolved from, you know, believing in Christianity. I evolved from believing in just a Jesus and just in a God. And I talk about this in my podcast, episode 30, but I don't think I specified or really went into the depths of, like, my emotions, right? Because everybody has experienced the rage, right? The rage of betrayal, the rage of feeling duped and bamboozled and disrespected, you know, feeling betrayed by this world, feeling betrayed by your parents, by your family, but because you didn't know this type of stuff, and you just now come to a realization that, like, how was this information not given to me at such a young age? Why am I just now finding out about this at 16, finding out about this at 20, at 25, maybe even 30 even. Imagine you 30 years old and you find out everything you done believed in, everything you done went through was just a scam. Imagine you was raised up in the church, believed in Jesus, all this type of stuff, and you come to find out Jesus never even existed. So you missed out. And I don't mean to make anybody feel like feel bad about how they lived, and make them feel ashamed or guilty or depressed about. And there's a trash bag coming this way. Okay, yeah, y'all can't see it, but okay, trash bag. I don't mean to make any of y'all feel bad or feel ashamed about how you lived your life, and I'm gonna talk about that later on in this video concerning the basis of like living your life in your past and accepting your past self. We're gonna talk about that in a second. But I don't mean to make anybody feel bad or ashamed about how they lived. If you lived 30 years as a Christian, be proud of that. If you lived 25 years as a Christian and you just now coming to the truth, be proud of that. I just need you to understand, like, for us who are aware around my age, just imagine if you was 30 years old and you just now found out Jesus wasn't real. You just now found out that instead of looking for an outside or an external force, the force that you've been looking for and been trying to tap into has been here this whole time, right? You've been waiting for the kingdom of God. You've been waiting for the kingdom of heaven. You've been searching. You've been seeking for the kingdom of heaven. And yet Jesus said the kingdom of God is at hand. It's right here. It's right here in the midst of you. Crazy, right? And so that's where you get to the basis of like really tapping in, becoming enlightened, spirituality, becoming the best version of yourself, all that type of stuff, right? So when it concerns the basis of like when I got out of Christianity, I was mad, right? And for people who used to follow me, like I used to make all type of disrespectful type of memes. I was mad, right? I was disrespecting the church. I was disrespecting all type of, you need to burn the Bible or you need to throw it away, all this type of stuff, right? I was just saying all type of outlandish stuff instead of understanding what I was reading. Because no one ever told me that instead of you thinking that the Bible is real, it's mythological, but because it's mythological, that doesn't mean that the substance that's there is taken away. Mythology, in a lot of ways, is how we learn to manage life. Is how most of our societies are structured, is around mythology. A lot of the things in terms of what we wear and what we say and how we go about things is surrounded around mythology. If somebody's lying over and over again, we call that person, the boy who cried wolf. Stuff like that. Everything from the Three Little Pigs to Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Everything is centered around mythology. Some things that we wear, like Nike, that goes back to Greek mythology. Certain things that we do, certain things that are structured in terms of our judicial system and all these type of things, that goes back to Kemet or Egypt. So there are certain things in terms of architecture and how we structure things. It all goes back to mythology. Mythology holds, believe it or not, mythology holds more ground than what you deem as to be history. Most things that you might think is historical might be fiction. Most things that are fictional is realer than you think. But we'll just leave it at that. But getting back to spirituality, I got out of Christianity mad at the world, mad at my parents, and it wasn't until I got into studying the Bible again, my Israelite phase back in 2019, that I began to study and learn more and learn the precepts upon precepts, line upon lines, all that type of stuff. And it wasn't until I went through my Israelite phase going into, when I transferred to a university, that I began to really study and understand what it means to be spiritual and what it means to live this life of spirituality and adapt to it and all this other type of stuff. And so then I transformed from being an Israelite to then being Omnist. And I talk about this in my podcast episode where I basically talk about how I was a student at my university. I went to this lecture. This Hindu woman was talking about the Vedas, and she was talking about how the truth is one, but wise men call it by many names. I look it up on my computer. I did my research about the whole phrase and stuff like that, and I come to find out that the truth being one and wise men calling it by many names was deemed to be omnism, and that it was through this perception of omnism that you are able to have respect. You are able to learn from many different people and apply certain things and certain mottos and certain phrases and certain principles that you learn from each of these spiritual systems and apply it to your life. Like I was saying before, like how you go to school. You go to school, you learn different curriculums, you learn your ABCs, your 1, 2, 3s, you learn about history, you learn about science and certain formulas. And all these things are gathered, all these things you combine and you mix together in order for you to become the best version of yourself. Anyways, so something else I want to bring out is that Christianity is a beautiful religion. Judaism is a beautiful religion. Islam is a beautiful religion. And so what you need to understand is that all of these religions, even when you study their ancient texts, they are describing and depicting to you a visualization of your inner self. When it tells you about reaching the heavens, when it tells you about searching within the world, when it tells you about, having power in heaven and in earth, it's talking about your inner being. If you look at the Hindu have depictions of people who have worlds and hundreds of people within them. This is a depiction of your inner verse, the universe within yourself. So when you are looking within, when you are seeking the kingdom is within yourself. Literally, the Hindus have depictions of kingdoms, of universes, of elevations, of dimensions within the body, because the body is how you are going to transcend. It is through the mundane world, it is through the material, it is through your body, your temple, that you are going to elevate and transcend and become enlightened. But you have to first attain this understanding that you are within the world, but you are not of this world. So enjoy your life, apply your own spiritualities, your own spiritual systems, apply whatever you see fit concerning how you want to live your life, right? You only live once, YOLO, all this type of stuff. And you have to understand that you are God, generator, operator, and destroyer or director of your life. So you don't have to listen to a gospel. You can create your own gospel once you apply the spiritual principles and once you understand the spiritual principles. You don't have to go to a Vedas, or you don't have to go to a Quran, or you don't have to go to a Bible or a Torah. Once you understand, you study the fundamentals and the basics of these spiritual systems, and you study the curriculums, and you go through the fundamental basis of understanding what they are. Like I said, there are levels to this. So once you come to that level of understanding that, you created everything, you can create your own spiritual journey. You can create your own spiritual texts in your magic books and your gospels and your Bibles, because you're the source of that. People are trying to find out who created the Bible, who's the original people that created the Quran, who's the original people that created the Vedas, who was the original people that created these ancient texts. It's right here. The source is right there. You want to go to the people or to the source or to the consciousness that created these different texts. All you got to do is look within. The source that is within you created all these ancient texts, and you have the ability to create your own ancient texts and display and express your own expression and perspective on what we call the truth. Like I was saying, like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, these three major religions that derive out of Africa. If you really learn, and you look at this from with an open eye, you'll understand that these are beautiful, beautiful religions. It's just that man has corrupted them. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, these are beautiful religions, beautiful spiritual systems, but they have been corrupted by man. And all these denominations and what you see in the media, they give you these false or these propagated narratives and rhetorics and perspectives and images on the basis of these three major religions. But when you study the depths of what these religions personify and what they're supposed to be displayed as, you don't have to subscribe to any denominations, because every denomination is created by man. Denominations are just different perspectives on the center basis or the center core of their belief system that surrounds, whether it's Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. But once you come to the understanding, you don't have to subscribe to a denomination or a person's perspective. You can have your own personal perspective once you're tapped in, right? So that type of thing. Another thing I want to also reiterate, I love Christianity. I love the way that I grew up. I was raised up in the church. I had a good time in the church. I had a good time becoming that Jesus boy that everybody was mad at. I accept that part about myself, because when I woke up to the truth, that was something that I always regretted. That was something that I always wanted to be ashamed of. There were certain pictures and certain things I just wanted to erase, and I deleted because I didn't want to be associated with that. But that's always going to be a part of me as long as I live. For people who knew me growing up in school, for family members that saw me growing up, it's always going to be a part of me. So why shun it? Why cast it off? I need to accept it. And in order for you to really go through the works of becoming God and then becoming the creator that created God, right? In order for you to get to that level, you have to first start with the fundamentals. You have to accept your past. You have to go through what we call the shadow work, but you need to do the necessary mental, psychological work of accepting who you are, accepting things that have happened to you, things that you have done, that you have caused, take accountability for, all these type of things. However long it's going to take, because this wasn't just a day and night thing. This took years for me to finally accept who I am and who I was and who I'm going to be. So I accept that Jesus loving boy with the big cross. I accept that part of myself, even when I got out of Christianity and I became that conscious Negro that was also annoying as well, wearing all these shirts about protecting black women and all this. I accept that part of myself, even though at one time, I was ashamed of that. But I accept that part of myself because it got me to where I am today. So I accept that part about myself. I accept that, there were times where I shunned off friends, good friends. There were times where I wasn't the best friend. I wasn't really a good friend. I was talking mess about people behind their back. I was the one that shunned good people away. I was the one that messed up. And because I messed up, I'm never going to have a good relationship with whoever it may be. But I accept that part about myself, and I love that part about myself, because it is through those lessons and through me making those mistakes with those people that I'm able to value the great people in my life today. This is the way that you have to look at this shadow work. This is the way that you have to look at your past trauma and your past experiences and the things that you've done in the past, that you have to accept those things in the dark that you try to shun away. If you're a very sexual person, you have to accept that part about myself. I accept that I'm a very sexual person. If you got to work on certain aspects concerning your sexuality, you accept that whatever has happened to you in the past, whether it's somebody took advantage of you, whatever the case is, you accept that part about yourself, and now you walk on the journey to healing yourself, to becoming a new person, from sprouting from going to being a a caterpillar, caterpillar to being a butterfly. You know, going through this transformation where, you know, as a snake sheds its skin, you know, you are going to be reborn. You are going to be renewed. And so that's how you have to look at going through this experience of your journey, is that you can't be out here feeling ashamed about your past, right? As it says in the Bible, there is no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. Paul talks about how, like, you know, casting away the old man, you know, getting rid of the old man and the things you have done in the past. And he called into such a consciousness of this that he told, you know, the churches that, you know, I don't even identify with who I was before. That's gone now. And of course, that's with the whole concept of Jesus washing away your sins and washing away you being blameless, all this type of stuff, right? Okay, we understand that. But at the same time, you can't completely cast away your old self. You're always going to be associated with your old self. And I think when you look in between the lines of what Paul said in the epistles, you can even understand and even accept that, you know, you may not identify or associate with your old self anymore, but that's a certain part about yourself that you're always going to accept. You know, that's something that you have to live with for the rest of your life. And whether you like it or not, you have to accept it. You have to embrace that aspect of yourself, because that builds your character. Right? That always builds great character. It doesn't matter if you was somebody like Saul, who was was often Christians and persecuting Christians, or if you was out here, you know, giving it up to everybody up and down the block, you know, like Mary Magdalene. It's an aspect of yourself you have to accept, because it for an example, with Mary Magdalene, through her being a prostitute, through her and her sexual deviances, she was able to become the holy priestess. She was able to become that holy divine priestess to anoint Christ on his journey. Same thing with Mother Mary. She was out here in a certain version of the Gnostic Gospels. She was out here being a prostitute, a sacred prostitute, but it was through her deviances that she gave birth to the Christ. And it's through the Divine Mother, the Queen, the great whore of heaven. It is through the Mother Goddess, the Divine Feminine, Lady Wisdom, that you are to be reborn, that you are to be appointed and purposed on your mission in this hero's journey. And their shadow is in it. There's a, Lord have mercy. Is there a shadow? I mean, it looks like a shadow from my end. Let's go over here. I thought we were gonna be safe. But let me say that again. Get that for the clip. But it's through the Divine Mother, it's through the Divine Feminine that you are able to be reborn again, that you are able to be appointed upon your mission and your purpose, and to fulfill your will, right? Do what thou wilt. And for those who don't know what do what thou wilt means, that doesn't mean that you do whatever you want. Okay, that's a very immature mindset to have. Do what thou wilt means that you have the ability and the privilege and the opportunity to fulfill your purpose on this earth. That's what it means. So, you know, like I was saying before with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, all the Marys in the Gospels, right? All the sacred prostitutes, the sacred priestesses and all this type of stuff. It was through their sexual deviances, however you want to see it, right? It was through their sexuality, through that fire, the kundalini, through this sexual power, that they were able to anoint, to christen the Christ. They had the power and the ability, because they were more tapped into this sacred energy, the sexual sacred energy. It was through that they were able to be appointed as priestesses, to display, right, this anointing, this baptism, to Christ, and he was to be reborn. And this is what Christ was speaking to Nicodemus about concerning being reborn, that no man can enter into the kingdom unless he be born again. And if you want to look at this from like mythological aspects and stuff like that, like how many men do you, like let's really think about this. How many men do you think Lady Wisdom have been with? Not just men, but women as well. Because she doesn't just attach to men, she attached to women as well. Women embody her and men invoke her, right? Channel her. Men learn from her, women embody her. That's how this masculine, feminine, yin and yang works. A man is in a line with both his masculine and feminine because he learns from the divine feminine. He learns from the divine feminine, but he doesn't have the equipment or the body to embody the divine feminine. He learns from the divine feminine, but only the black woman, the divine feminine, the vessel of the divine feminine, only the woman can display and embody the divine feminine. I don't care what you see out here with listen, I ain't even gonna get into that. I don't care what you see out here with men trying to be women, women trying to be men. It's never going to work. A man can never embody and be the representation or the exact display of divine femininity. That only can be portrayed through the woman. And the woman cannot be a representation or display, the exact display of divine masculinity that can only be displayed through the man. So these are things that we need to come to realization and understand when it concerns the basis of embodying and invoking these certain type of energies. Because some people will ask, well, how can a man invoke Ishtar? How can a man invoke or channel Aset? Because these energies dwell within us. They dwell within women, and they also dwell within us as men as well. Both Asar and Aset, both Ogun and Oshun. So we as men can embody Ogun, we can embody Asar, but we can't get that full display of feminine energy unless we have the woman right beside us and we're learning from that woman, right? When we're having a wife or a mate or a lover by our side, when we have female friends that we can learn from, all this type of good stuff. So we can only learn from the divine feminine as men. Just as with the women, they can only learn from the men and learn structure and learn about being in order and learning about provision and having security. With the men, we learn from the divine feminine in terms of being creative, being outgoing, being motivated, taking those risks, being chaotic. And it is through this union that we are able to have this yin and yang. It's through this union that we're able to have this unionship, this harmony. You cannot have light without darkness. You cannot have good without evil. You cannot have the woman without the man. And you cannot have the man without the woman. So it is through this unionship that you are able to have this relationship. For the men, having this relationship with the woman, and the woman having this relationship with the man. And it is in nature that you can only have this unionship, this click, of putting the pieces together of the divine masculine with the divine feminine. It will be very unbalanced for men to being with men and women being with women. We're just going to keep it at that. Very unbalanced, very chaotic on either ways, right? On either spectrums, but especially for women, because it's very chaotic. I mean, imagine two chaos, you know what I'm saying? There's no structure. We'll just leave it at that. But did I hit up on everything here? I posted something this morning about black women and their sexuality, and this woman named Karen Steffens, I believe that's how you say her name. But she was talking about how there's a lot of black women out here who are afraid of stepping into their sensuality, their sexual self. And I talk about this in one of my podcast episodes as well, a couple of podcast episodes ago, concerning how there's a lot of women out here who really want to be the divine Devi, who really want to be out here strutting and walking and really want to be personified, that Diana Ross, that Pam Grier. They want to be Tiana Taylor and Kelly Rowland and Beyonce. They really want to be out here strutting. But there's some women out here who they haven't really embodied love in that aspect of themselves because of what their parents have told them, because of what the church has told them, because of certain comments that they might see on social media, red pill content, Kevin Samuels, whatever the case is, right? Something, whatever's stopping them, that insecurity, whatever's stopping them from achieving what they want to achieve in life, you know? And what Karen was talking about, matter of fact, we'll just play the video.
Of being a naked black woman under the sun by a pool. There's a lot of jealousy and a lot of misunderstanding going on about the sexuality, especially of the black woman. I think that and a lot of times it's been made to seem dirty or hoish, or you can't do this, you can't do that. You know what? Insecure women are very competitive with other women. I am not competitive because in my eyes there is no competition. I believe that every woman should feel that way about herself, and then that way we won't have the tits for tats and the oh she's wearing this and the oh why is she wearing that. We wouldn't have that if women were confident and secure and knowledgeable. For a woman like as myself, I use my sexuality 100% all the time, every day of the year. That we're shunned or we're made to feel like we're doing something wrong because we use what we have, basically by the women that don't use it, or that don't know how to use it, or that wish that they could use it. Today's my birthday, by the way. I'm 24 years old today. Tell me happy birthday.
So she, in this video, talking about this beautifully displayed, beautifully, you know, down to the core of what it means to embody and to really tap into and channel your sexual energy. And there's some men in the comments in that video on my Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram, you can see it for yourself, and they clearly made her point. There's some men in there that was talking about, like, you know, you're teaching women to go crazy, you're teaching women to go down this dirty road, all this type of stuff, right? We need moral women, we need women that got morals. All this type of stuff. I'm saying all of this in my comments, and you're proving her point. You have a very misunderstanding. You have this preconceived notion, as they call it, but you have a misunderstanding on the sexuality of a black woman, on the sensual sexual energy of the black woman, of the divine feminine. It is this crucial and critical aspect of herself that she is able to evolve and to bloom and blossom like a beautiful rose, in order for her to transition through the different phases that she is able to be in this world. And the three phases that I'm talking about are the three stages of the Devi, or the triple black goddesses. So you have the mistress, you have the mother, and then you have the crone, right? So the mistress, or the maiden, is the one who is outgoing. She's ambitious. She's doing whatever. You might call her, you might think she's for the streets, but she's out here living her best life. She's out here doing whatever. It doesn't even just have to be down to the core of just having many lovers and stuff like that. This is when we get into like dealing with different archetypes and characters. And I talk about this on my Patreon, and I talk about this on my membership as well. So if you want to know more in depth on the three different stages and all that type of stuff, follow me on my Patreon, or become a member on my YouTube, and I have a whole display of talking about this divine feminine energy, and I break it down thoroughly there. I can't do it here. It would take a very long time. But you have the maiden, mistress, or the prostitute. You have the mother, or the wife, or the companion. You know, when she settles down, she finds her lover, her prince charming, whatever the case is, lives happily ever after. And then you have the crone, or the teacher, or the oracle, right? This is when you hit in your elder stage and you become a example or a teacher, molding the up and coming generation. There are some women out here that can be all three at once, but it's very rare. Okay, there are some women out here who can be the crone and also be the mistress. Some women out here can be the maiden and also be the crone and the mistress all in one. Okay, or the mother, the crone, and the mistress all in one. So it's not for everybody. Juggling all three at once. Some women, it's just naturally women go through this phase, and that's Mother Nature. And when you have the church and society and red pill content, all this type of stuff, telling women not to become the maiden, not to become the mistress, not to become, and like I said, we're not just talking about a role, we're talking about an archetype where the woman becomes Lilith, where the woman sets out her way and becomes Eve in a Gnostic way, where she looks out for enlightenment, where she won't be subservient to just what you say. She's going to she's going to challenge what you say. She's going to challenge what you want her to do, right? Where she leads the way, where she becomes Jezebel and embodies the Jezebel spirit. And there's nothing wrong with the Jezebel spirit at all. The Jezebel spirit is how a woman becomes more confident. She walks and men who don't know themselves fear. Foolish men fear her, right? Foolish princes want to dominate her and take her down and stuff like that. And that's why she was such a threat to the Israelites, because of her confidence and how she walked and how she maneuvered herself. And the Israelites will have you think that she was this wicked woman, and women out here, they try to embody this Jezebel. Listen, it's a bunch of hoopla. You have to embody these women. Get into the stage of becoming the mistress and the maiden. They embody Jezebel, they embody Lilith, so that they can live their best life in their young years, get into their 20s, mid-20s, late 20s, all this type of stuff. When they settle down, and some women, you know, it might stop at 23, might stop at 25, where they become the maiden, they become or they become the mother, the wife. You know, they settle down. That's fine and dandy. Some women, they can juggle becoming the mother or the wife and becoming the mistress as well. However you see fit, right? All these things, you know, of course, have to be explained, and you ain't just gonna go out there doing willy-nilly, right? I'm not telling you to cross roads without looking both ways. You know, you do what works best for your life. I'm not telling you to just go out there and get crazy, okay? But this is the step of life. You know how we always say everybody got a whole phase. Well, women, whether you like it or not, are going to have a whole phase. I think that's just personally Mother Nature. People ask me, you wouldn't tell your daughter that. She wasn't going to tell me anyway if she out here doing whatever. There are a lot of women, and I would know. There's a lot of women out here who are just daddy's little girl, daddy's little princess, and she's just an angel. They out here getting raw dogged I'm talking about off the bed, off the edge of the bed, getting raw dogged by 2 to 3 different Negroes. Listen, I'd rather educate my daughter. I'd rather educate my daughter in these archetypes, so that she can know who to mess with, who not to mess with, that she can walk and strut in her divine femininity, rather than to tell her, you can't do this, you can't do that, if a woman does this, and yada yada yada. And she going out here being rebellious, because being daddy's little girl, she's going to be rebellious. I was rebellious. So what I think she going to be? I might as well educate her and accept that aspect of herself, and teach her how to maneuver in this world with that energy, because that energy is going to be high and low. It's going to be there. All right. You can't tame, you can't just suppress and continuously try to crucify the beast. It's going to get out of control, and you have to learn to either tame it, or it's going to tame you. So there you have it. I'm going to teach my daughter the ways of what it means when she gets of age, when she gets there, when she becomes a young woman. I'm going to teach her that. Her mother's going to teach her that. You know, some of y'all going to be just like y'all parents, recycling that same type of principle of suppressing your sexuality, suppressing certain aspects of just being outgoing and ambitious and you know, exploring the world. You listen, a lot of y'all are like the people in the church more than y'all think y'all are. As conscious as y'all may say y'all are, a lot of y'all still got that church mindset. My daughter ain't gonna do this, my son ain't gonna do that. Listen, your daughter might be a good 304 in the next 20 years. I'm just saying. These are things a lot of things you just have to take into consideration. All you can do is teach them the way, but it does you no good for you to suppress that aspect of themselves, especially if they find out early and you shunned them for it. I can't tell you how many times I was shunned because of certain fields, right? Tyron, why would you do that? Tyron, why would you be looking at this? I'll give you a little backstory, right? In the sixth grade, I found out about the P. In the sixth grade, I found out about the P. And listen, I had me a ball for a good couple of months on the computer watching the P. But I couldn't watch it on mine because I had parental control, so I was watching it on my mother's account. My mother looked on the search history, found out something. What is this? Sex tube? This woman went in. When I tell you that she went in, I ain't never had somebody wrinkle me so bad in my life. In the sixth grade, went in on me. Tyron, why would you watch this? Yada, yada, yada. You ain't supposed to be watching nothing like that. Yada, yada, yada. Yelling, screaming, mad to the core. I'm sitting in my bed feeling so ashamed, feeling so bad, right? I could never open up and tell her what I was feeling, how I was feeling. And we never had the conversation concerning the basis of that ever again. Ever. Never had a conversation concerning this feeling and stuff like that. And it listen, you see how I am now? I ain't saying the way that I am now concerning like being sensual and with dealing with the Debbie, like they ain't got nothing to do with it, because I went, like I said, I went through the necessary shadow work. But it's because of my past, right? Certain things about my past, certain archetypes and characters about that, it was always going to be there. That character, that aspect of becoming the incubus, the mojo, the ladies' man, whatever the case is, right? The sexual energy, it was always going to be there. Unfortunately, I found out at a young age. It's a certain part of myself I have to accept. I have to maneuver. I had to learn in will and skill. But listen, if I would have learned more at a younger age about that energy, if my parents would have had patience and wouldn't have made me feel so bad about it, whatever the case is, I might have went about things a different way growing up. I'm just saying. So a lot of y'all gonna have y'all kids and they might be looking at something they're supposed to be watching, and some of y'all just not gonna have that sit down. Some of y'all are gonna be yelling at them and making your daughter feel ashamed that she was looking at a guy, or she whatever the case is. I've heard some wild stories of women back in middle school and high school, and it's because y'all didn't want to have that conversation with them younger, so they had to sneak around. They had to, I found I've heard instances about finding a boy in your room or whatever the case, like so many instances, and all there had to be was a conversation and teaching your daughter about these things. And because of this religious structure that we've been given, you never was willing to do that. That's all I'm saying. Is way better for you. It will benefit you and your children in the long run for you to teach them now, right? Teach them teach them generally, right? Typically when they are of age. But if it happens early, if it happens before 13, 12, 13, 14, you have to have a little talk with them about something, right? You have to have that little talk with them. You have to be patient with them. Don't make them feel ashamed, all that type of stuff. Because if you be like the people in my comments, I bet you won't tell your daughter that I couldn't have my son do. Listen, they gonna sneak around. If there's a certain aspect about themselves where that's gonna happen, you either gonna have to deal with it right then and there, or at all. Now, I'm not telling you to encourage your children to be expressive and maneuver and stuff. You just have to have a mature conversation with them about that, right? I'm not telling you to encourage your daughter to be a 304. I'm not telling, and people are going to take this the wrong way. I understand, all right? It is what it is. But I'm just telling you that if you don't have the conversation with them, if you don't let them know and teach them. I remember I was hearing Kareem, the master teacher Kareem, he was on an interview and he was talking about how, like, when he was in the school, and he was one of the, I don't know if he was like a supervisor or if he was like a advisor, whatever the case is. He was going upstairs and he saw two black kids getting it on, in the hallway. He didn't shun them, he didn't shame them, but he let the boy and the girl know that your body is sacred, your body is a temple, and he gave them the rundown. That's another great perspective concerning the basis of just having that talk with them. But if you don't have the talk with them and you just want to shame them and all this other type of stuff, you're going to have this cycle repeat of 304s being 304s. So it is what it is. But all I'm saying is that, getting back to the bringing everything home, when it comes to learning and learning different perspectives and all this other type of stuff, all of this is a part of your spiritual journey. There are things about yourself that you just have to accept, and you have to go through that necessary shadow work in that journey to accept those things about yourself to become the best version of yourself. And you can teach other people on accepting certain things about themselves, whether it's good or bad. You know, a lot of things like concerning black women, a lot of black women have been demonized, completely demonized for becoming sensual. You know, Beyonce coming out with the song Church Girls, you know, that's a great song to describe, you know, this, what I'm talking about concerning that energy and concerning the, you know, that archetype or that aspect of yourself that you have to learn to accept and embrace. So bringing it all back to spirituality, these are things that you have to learn about, things that you have to come to an understanding of in order for you to elevate. Otherwise, you're going to be like the Negroes in my comment section who can't get their dick wet. Because I refuse to believe. and you know what's crazy? They love the 304s. They love a good 304. I don't know why they be capping. Because this trend that went on Twitter just a couple of weeks ago of a man being invited to the girls' sleepover. I don't know if y'all seen it on Twitter. And I'm talking about hella black men. I don't know what black men didn't post it. I posted it. I don't know what black men didn't post it, where they had this fantasy. Not saying they would actually do it, but they just had the fantasy, right? That they would be down for the get down if they would go to a girl's sleepover and their girl, you know, gave them the pass to get raw dog, to get passed through, passed around by the girls at the sleepover, or it could be a whole, or whatever the case is. But they had the fantasy of doing that. But some of them haven't been through the journey and they haven't accepted that part of themselves. It's ridiculous. But I know I said I wasn't going to be out here long and I went against my word. Y'all know how I be. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this podcast episode. Thank you for listening to me and just going through the you know, dealing with the shadows and everything, finding different places. But thank you for listening to me and watching this podcast episode. Make sure that you are subscribed and turn on your notifications. Check your notifications. Check the bell because it might say personalized right now, but turn on all notifications. If you are on Spotify listening to this, make sure that you answer the poll below and let me know how you personally feel about this conversation and how you feel on any aspects. You know, if you just need a little more clarification. But genuinely, right? If you genuinely just need a little bit more clarification, hit me up in my DMs. Because I refuse. I don't like the setting of like how it looks like in the comments and stuff like that. So just hit me up in the DMs and stuff like that. Or do your own personal research. Or if you're a Patreon, we can have the conversation there as well. All right. But until next time, I'm Tyrone. And we out.
The waves brought me a song in the night that spoke in the softening light, words of a lonely one, unknown, caught in the darkening scene, whispering mysteries. Where can that poet be? Remote from my castaway island, he lets his poems drift on the sea, immersed in the warmth of the current. They touch the